Good morning. This is Dr. Sabree, and I am recording this video to show you how to make the most of your RHIT prep material. So upon logging in, I'm not sure exactly what you see, but I think you might land here on the home screen. And as you may notice, you have the begin here, you have the textbook PowerPoints, and then the modules are broken down. I like to keep mine minimized. So this allows you to expand and close. So if all of yours are open, it could be a little overwhelming. So I like to keep all of mine minimized so that I can focus on the domain that I need to focus on at that time. So I like to say the only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So I don't want you to always look at all of the material. I want you to focus solely on what you need to focus based on your schedule. What schedule, might you ask? I want you to take the time to create one if you don't have one. If you need some suggestions, you can go to the announcements page and I put some exam prep tips there for you. And in the second tip, exam tip Tuesday number 2, it talks about creating a schedule. And then it gives you a sample schedule. So I'm going to download that here. But again, I want you to create a schedule based on your availability, based on when you have time. Again, it needs to be convenient for you. Some suggestions I put in the tips are listening to the podcast during your commute to or from the office. Start reading the chapter early in the morning while your mind is fresh or during your lunch break. Because sometimes, our day can be so overwhelming. By the time we get home, we're tired. We don't feel like reading all of the chapters. Break the chapters up into chunks. That's okay. And just have a goal of reading the entire chapter by the end of the week or by midweek, whatever works best for you. Okay. And then I suggested also that you have lunch or a meeting with colleagues who hold this credential or for colleagues in other departments that impact HIM so that you can make the connection, so you can have a better understanding of how everything works. So I'm going to take the time right now to open this 8-week schedule for you. Hopefully you can see that. This is what it looks like. And everything that's built into the modules are added here on the schedule. So as you can see, there's something that you have to do every day, but a simple task to help you work toward earning your credential. So the first week is a little bit heavy, right? That begin here module is a little bit heavy. But as you get into the second week, there's twice a week, like Wednesday and Fridays, where you could have some downtime, or as I would call them, mental health days or your rest days, because we don't want your brain to get fried during this prep. So I would print this out, and then let's say your days off are Saturday and Sunday. Okay, so make the Wednesday, your Saturday, or something of that nature, or the Friday, your Sunday, however you have to adjust this prep to work for you, feel free to do that, right? Because my Monday may not look like your Monday, okay? And that's okay. So that's just an example. All right, let's jump back to the course. All right, something else. So I do suggest that you take the time to read a tip once a week, okay? There's 6 of them. So again, take the time to read it at least once a week. And these are things that I do or that I encourage while you're prepping for the RHIT exam. Okay. Also, included in your purchase is the Weekend Warrior Workshop. So you can join us at any time. However, I suggest that you join us the date that's closest to your exam date. So you can do all of this studying on your own. And then when you get together with us, you get to bring it all together. You get to spend the weekend immersed in the material, covering all domains. And then you take your test and you get to dump it and move on if you so choose. So these are the 2023 dates. for the Weekend Warrior Workshop. This will always change, okay? So just keep an eye out, based on where we are in the year, and then when you should join us. If you don't see a date that's closest, we tend to do the RHIT Weekend Warrior Workshops every other month. So if you don't see a date on there, or if you want to know when's the next one, feel free to email us. Email us at getcertified@the-qualified.com. And we'll share those dates with you. Okay. So these are shortcut buttons to each domain. Okay. So if I know I left off on the statistics domain and I don't feel like going to the modules and scrolling through for whatever reason, I can come to this announcement, click on statistics, and it brings me directly to the statistics domain. Okay. So I'm going to open up some of these modules because as you see, there is an announcement here, which is some guidance for the week. And then you have some videos. Okay. All modules do not look like this. Okay. But they are structured the same. Okay. So for example, you have your module 1 announcement and the chapter summary videos. So you can use this in a couple different ways. So I have students who like to read the textbook and then come over to the chapter summary videos and listen to re-emphasize the material. Or at the beginning of the week, they'll listen to the summary videos and then they read the chapter and then they highlight important material, whatever works best for you. Or you can listen and follow along in the textbook, highlighting material as you go. I always suggest using at least 3 highlighters during your prep. One that's green, that's information that's important that you're comfortable with. One that's yellow, information that's important that you're not too sure about or you have more questions on. And then a pink highlighter for something that, you think is important. You heard me say it's important. It's something that you want to remember, but you have no clue what it is. This, I like to say, can set the tone for tutoring sessions or just additional research. So I like to look over my chapters, see what I highlighted in pink that tells me, that allows me to gauge, okay, do I have a lot of research to do this week? Do I not? You can then take that information, you could plug it into Google, or you can use another resource. Something else that I recommend in this prep is for you to pull all of the textbooks that you have or that you've gathered throughout your program, and then look up things that you're not sure about in different textbooks because it may read in a different way, right? And that language may speak to you more than the language in this big book. So you can do that as well. Okay, so then again, like I said, you gauge, you could say, okay, well, there's a lot of pink in here that I need to talk through. Let me book a tutoring session, right? Or let me conduct some more research. So on one of your rest days, if you don't necessarily want to rest or you still want to do one thing toward your prep, you can start researching, right? Grab you a journal. We also have an exam prep journal to help you capture your notes. That's on our website. So you can grab that to help you alongside or while you're in this course. So you can take your notes, you can conduct your research, and to make sure that you're comfortable before you move on to future domains. So something else I want to say is the suggested sample is an 8-week prep, right? There are 6 domains, right? So you can customize this prep as you need to, right? There's 6 domains. So if you want to give yourself 12 weeks, you can. That means you have 2 weeks per domain. That's fine. I'm not in no rush. I'm not sure if you're in a rush, but it helps to work backwards. And what I mean by that is schedule your exam date. Schedule your exam date. So then what you can do is say, let's say our exam date is going to be on November 21st. So I can say November 21st is how many days from today? All right. I know I have 93 days. Okay. So how many weeks? is 93 days. 93 days is 13 weeks from today. That's perfect. I just said give yourself 12 weeks. You now have 2 weeks per domain. Put that date on your calendar, right? Give yourself 2 weeks per domain. But something else that I want to show you is, or that I encourage, right? There is a final exam here at the end of your prep. You need a 300 to pass, just like the real exam, right? So that's located here in the wrap up. So 300, 75% to pass. I encourage you to take this about a week or two before your actual exam so that you know how to pivot. If there are certain questions that you still have trouble with or that you need help with, that's the time where you need to adjust. You need to adjust and spend that remaining time prepping a little bit different than you were prepping before. Again, this is another time that I would schedule a tutoring session because then you and I, or one of the tutors and you, can go over each of the questions that you missed and give you some rationale, give you some feedback, give you some other ways of thinking about things before you go into your exam. Okay. And you may notice we also incorporate the AHIMA Press because we know people like the AHIMA Press. They like taking the quizzes and things like that. So great, at the end of the week, once you've read all your material, take your AHIMA Press exam in addition to the chapter quizzes, right? Upload your results so we can see them, so we can give you feedback, okay? This is the textbook that we're using. You see how I just clicked here on the right-hand side, access to the e-textbook? So you can click on the e-textbook if you've purchased it that way. Some of you may have a hard copy, and that's fine too. But this allows me to get to the e-textbook while I'm in my prep. You can have the other module open in another window if you so choose, right? But this allows you to go through your textbook. So another piece of advice that one of my students told me, the read aloud function, if you have that e-prep book, they told me that they cover the chapter at least 3 times. So they read it themselves, they listen to the chapter summary, and then they do the read aloud so that they could hear it again. So that's another great feature here. So feel free, to use that, but this is great. Let me go back because there's something else. Okay, this is the content outline in the begin here. This is the Saturday seminar, Tips and Tricks to Pass the RHIT Exam with Aaron Taylor. That was a webinar we had last year. Listen to it. He gives some really great tips about prepping, okay, some general study tips, and then understanding learning styles for adults, because I just mentioned to you, reading that chapter multiple times, you may not have to do it, but you need to know what type of learner you are. Because if you're an auditory learner, then that means, okay, I'm going to learn most by listening to those chapter summary videos and then maybe allowing my textbook to read aloud, because you may not have the greatest reading comprehension. So when you read on your own, you can read it, but then you can never remember what you read. That's okay too. That's pretty common. Okay. So there is a student workbook in here that you can use. It just gives you some additional questions per chapter that you can answer. It is a lot. It's 172 pages. I encourage you to print out based on the chapter in which you're working on, or what you can do, take a trip. Take a trip to your local, Kinko's, Office Depot, and just have them print it out so that you can have something to work on, or at least look through it, right? You don't need all the cases, right? You may need the application exercises depending on if that's what you want. But if you're more focused on the questions, grab those questions out of there, print those questions, and use that during your prep, okay? You don't have to. Again, it's just a supplemental resource based on what you need, because every module has Every module has quizzes for each chapter that you're covering. Something else that I want to recommend is going to be the digital flashcards. I love our digital flashcards. They're on Quizlet. So you can always purchase the digital flashcards because you can use them in a couple different ways. So what I mean by that, you can test your knowledge while you're standing in line at the grocery store, at the doctor's office, or you can, practice the terminology at the end of the week. Whatever you think is best for you, you can use those flashcards for. But a lot of our students do use that on their prep. Okay, let's see what else. I think that's it for the most part. Something else that I want to quickly say is don't skip out. So the podcasts and the YouTubes, they're just conversations that incorporate concepts of this domain. So I want you to hear, especially if you don't have healthcare experience or if you don't have HIM experience, I want you to hear how these concepts are being used. I want you to hear how key terms in this terminology are being used. So that's included there. Don't skip out on those. If there is additional, like this supplemental free course, Health IT Foundations, this covers about chapters 1 and 2 in our textbook. So take the time to do it. I don't link it for nothing. Okay, so take the time to do it. But that's it for the most part. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. The modules, as you can see, domain 1 is worth 19 to 25%. Domain 2 is worth 14 to 18% of your exam. And then domain 3 is worth 12 to 18% of your exam. So domain 4, 19 to 25% of your exam. 5, 13 to 17, and then domain 6 is 9 to 12. So you want to focus your efforts on domains 1, 4, and 2. Okay, those are worth the most. Okay, especially knowing and understanding how the revenue cycle processes and how they work. You need to know that for your exam. So if you want to say everything else I have experience with or I've done, I don't need a whole lot of time. Okay, great. I can give myself 1 week on those, but on the domains that's worth the most, I'll give myself 2 weeks. 2 weeks or more if you can. So let me know if you have any other questions. But otherwise, I hope that this video was helpful to you, and I look forward to working with you to help you get certified. Thank you so much for your time. Happy studying.